refresh what we're doing here, in case anyone forgot. What we're doing is working on the Articles of Agreement, and what we're hoping tonight is that we'll build on...
John, I'll make sure the board members have it. I don't know if there's going to be some more. I mean, they could probably have, there's probably enough.
I think so. I made some, I didn't do one.
Okay. You already have a copy? We may not need it. Come over here now. I'm expecting Bob and more.
Thank you. Handouts and child stars.
This is
Can't compute. Thank you.
change of Brahmin, so I need some
Okay.
copies.
So thank you. We'll put that aside.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so as we were saying, the purpose tonight is to build on what we did last week. We do have some agreements that we've already agreed on. So hopefully we're going to make, I'm hoping that we can come up with agreements and vote on them tonight, yay or nay. And I think it's really important for us to remember that we're not debating or arguing whether a merger is good or not. What we're doing tonight is, in case there is a merger, we are doing the best we can to get the best agreements we can. If there's not a merger, then it's moot, right? But we will have done the work, just in case. So I think it's a good idea to kind of keep it the way we did last time, where we go through the agreements, and then I think we could differ it a little bit this time. When we're done discussing, before we do a vote call, we could ask for the public's input instead of waiting to that point of discussion. I think that would be good. So it's a kind of a combination of what we did last week and the first meeting. I think that'll be best to get the results that we want. But I appreciate what everybody did last week, because it really did help our flow to have public waiting until after the committee discussed and then having the public add their input. So again, we're going to start with public comments, and then, oh, I'm sorry, did we do administration first and then public comments?
Yeah, I don't know if we have an agenda, but I think last time we
Did amendment.
we did the minutes.
Minutes first, okay.
I'd make that motion to approve the minutes from whatever date the last meeting was.
January
29th.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
And Megan seconded.
So I'd like to, Don called me about a correction, and I think it's a pretty critical correction. So, and what it is under the beginning of number 5, review draft articles of agreement. Bob Berger explained we should bring the articles of agreement to a vote, but not to bring the articles of agreement to a vote is what he said. And Don was absolutely right. I just didn't put the not in there, so that would be the correction I would add.
Yeah, that's a key.
Yeah, it's key.
Yeah, but context is everything. I understood.
Yeah. And I also sent in I guess it's on here, but I also sent in the email that it was Terry that called it to order, not Julie. And those are the only two corrections I have.
Perfect. Anyone else? Any other discussion? Okay, let's take a vote. All in favor of accepting the minutes with those amendments, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay? Okay, motion carried unanimously. Thank you. And now we'd like to hear from the public. And again, if that's okay, if we start off with 5 minutes, everyone have a chance to talk input that they have about these agreements that they'd like to see tonight. And also, we'll give you more time as we go through each of them as well. So, who would like to go first, public? Jay, you wanted to update us, right?
I just have one comment about the work that we did last week. When we left on the vote on articles, I think it was 10, we did 10A and D, and we discussed putting in there the three-quarter vote by the board and the majority for the voters. I think you need to add that into article 10A and B. Otherwise,
We didn't do B.
Otherwise, that article should be amended. Remember we talked about...
The representation, Jay?
Pardon me?
The representation?
Yeah, that was the representation article. See, like, in the school closing, we put in there, unless first approved by three-quarter vote of the union district board and majority of the voters residing in the towns in which the school is located, that's on school closure. I think you need, after thinking about this, include that protection in Article 10, otherwise that could be changed, that article could be amended.
Well, let's put that on consideration, up for consideration. Let's go through, let's go after we, what I was thinking is we've agreed on some, let's go with the ones we haven't, that we've tabled, and then let's go back if we need to go back.
You can discuss that when we come to Article 11, since you have it. So, more importantly though, I came to you, I've come to you straight from the state house. And it was unbelievable. The House Ed Committee convened at 10 o'clock. They accomplished absolutely nothing. They reconvened at 1 o'clock. And the first hour was dead silence. We all sat around the table and waiting for the attorneys to draft an amendment article. Now, meanwhile, Heidi Schulerman was visibly upset because they had an agreement prior to today that regardless of what the House felt about the delay article, that it was going to go to the House floor regardless of whether the committee approved it or not. Well, the committee voted against it 7-4, so the committee is going into the discussion on the floor tomorrow with a split caucus. So about an hour into the meeting, they came in with the attorneys with an amendment article, which I've just given Julie a copy of. And believe it or not, they created 5 and a half, according to the attorney, different categories, which plugs different schools across the state in terms of whether or not they're going to be eligible for a delay, rather than a blanket delay across the board, which from Heidi's perspective, there were some school districts that were close to a merger, but they wanted a little more time to make sure their T's are crossed and I's are dotted. So those school districts are not going to get according to the House Ed version, they're not going to be granted a delay. So they split it up into these 5 different categories. The first thing that came right up was this category 1 was if a new district was being formed and the work was not passed or a proposal wasn't made or a study committee wasn't formed, that and no proposal sent to the taxpayers or the voters, they'd fall into category 1, and they had the Franklin Northwest listed in that category. So fortunately, I was able to clear that up with the chair of the Ed Committee, because we in fact did create a study committee, and even though it wasn't a 706B study committee, it was a study committee that was meeting the terms set in Act 46, that it was a legitimate study. We did a robust study about the best way to meet the goals of Act 46. And I told her that for purpose of clarification is that we most certainly did present to taxpayers with a vote on a submission of an alternative to Section 9 alternative village budget proposal. So she was kind of taken back by that. She wasn't aware of that. So she took notes and she's going to correct that for the record. So I thought that was an important thing to clarify. And so anyway, they went on to list the different categories that they were actually creating for those schools that would be either eligible or not eligible for it. They actually made a separate category for Sheldon and the Franklin Northeast Supervisory Unit, specifically for them. So now the rub comes, it's unclear what's going to happen tomorrow, although it's clear to me there's going to be a civil war in the House of Representatives, because you have the coalition, the tripartisan coalition that's about 60 or so members of the House that are supporting the Schulerman amendment, and then you got the rest of them that are supporting the House Ed Committee's amendment. And there was this deal between the tripartisan coalition that it would be brought to the House, and then they kind of strung this amendment thing over the last couple of days, and nobody saw it until today. And so everybody's upset. And there's probably going to be one horrendous battle tomorrow, and who knows. My fear is that those that are in favor of the Heidi Schulman's proposal will probably vote against the House Ed proposal, and those in the House Ed will probably vote against the Schulman. We may end up with nothing. But the important thing to remember is that during discussion, this is extremely important, which is why I'm glad that you're going to try to wrap they had a discussion about creating articles of agreement for those school districts that are subject to a merger under Section 10. So they were under the impression that these articles of agreement that you're creating tonight had to go before the State Board of Education or the AOE for adoption. And they were shocked to find out that that's not the case, because once you guys are done, it goes directly to the voters by statute. And so they're going to move quickly to correct that. So the position that we're in right now is that we, as you mentioned earlier, that we've actually got some of our own articles have already been voted on and approved, and that's a good thing. But we're not now. There's another reason to move quickly to finish the job up, because they're going to change that, or at least they're going to try to change. It's going to take some time because they're going to have to amend Section 10, which is going to require a proposal by the House and a companion proposal by the Senate. They'll both have to concur and then they'll be voted on and signed into law. So it's going to take a little time, but they'll move quickly to do it. I expect probably within a week and a half to correct that.
I made a mistake doing photocopying it, if I could draw that again, because I handed out incomplete
Yeah,
information.
and this is the House amended version.
Sorry.
5.5 separate categories for eligibility for delay.
Well, I would like to ask a couple of clarifying questions, if you all don't mind, because I know in terms of timing of the meeting. But a couple of things that you said what are the odds of us being delayed, based on what you heard today?
I wouldn't venture a guess.
Okay.
I really wouldn't want
So will we know tomorrow more
We
definitively?
should know. I'm going back tomorrow. The House will convene at 1 o'clock, and I'll probably be there by about 8.
So we'll have more info tomorrow?
I should know
But that's
tomorrow.
only one.
I should know
debate.
tomorrow if either one of the proposals will be voted and approved or none of them.
And it's one debate, so it's not a definitive.
But there's going to be a war in the House tomorrow.
Okay, now let me ask you one more thing. Why Article 10 did you bring up just now? And when you talked
Section
about
10.
Well, Article 10, for those to refresh everybody's memory, is the article which says that a school district that is subject to a merger has 90 days to create articles of agreement.
Are we talking
You talk about Section 10 or Article 10?
let's not get confused. Are we on Article 10 of our articles or Section 10 of Act 49?
To clarify me, which one did you need?
I was asking you what you brought up. You said, I thought I heard you say Article 10 when you were talking about we got to move. Maybe you were saying Section 10.
Well,
Maybe you said
we have
Section
to-
10.
We have to,
Thank you.
we have to move to complete this body's work. We have to do it. Okay. Well, Section 10 is part of Act 46, or actually Section 49, it says that it is creating article of agreement. So that's what I was referring there. Now, if you're talking about the other Article 10, that's in our article of agreement that was only the question we were
Okay,
considering.
so Section 10 is what you're referring to. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So,
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Good.
Tomorrow I'll be interviewed.
How about the rest of the public? Did y'all want to say something? Dave, Devin? No? You're good for now?
Good for now.
Okay, okay. So let's go ahead then, and let's start off with, well, if everybody had a chance to go through what Pierrette sent us out, and I think you brought copies for everybody tonight, right?
Yep.
So you can see, if you go through these, just to kind of review, we have a lot done. Articles 1 through 3 we voted on. So we're just going to talk about the ones we agreed on, and then we're going to go back to the ones we left, and then we'll go back to the ones that we want to revisit. How's that? Or create. So Article 4, we left out B, which we'll get back to. But Article 5, we agreed. Article 7. Article 10, we had a vote. And then that leaves us Articles 11, 12, 13, and back to 6 and 4B, right?
Well, I was curious because Article 10, we voted on A and B, and this draft 2, C through E, are gone.
Yes. So, in this draft, so the things we talked about, it's not permanently gone, because I have draft 1 saved and draft 2. In draft 2, we had talked about taking process out.
Okay.
So I wanted you to see what it would look like if you want to have, like, that's an if. So if we do Australian ballot, this is the process that you would go through for just the initial election, which is not really something that the voters would choose, that's just what the process is. And so what I tried to do, and I don't, please, there may very well be things that I took out in my exuberance to cut down the process. So if we want to look side by side for any of the things we haven't done yet. But I got an answer on a couple of questions, like one, can we get rid of the process meeting? Which absolutely we can, because we'll start going to the voters, not, how to hold an organization meeting. And my other question is, do we then renumber these? Or is Article 8 forever Article 8, and we're only voting on 1 through 7, and then we would renumber them.
Okay. I wonder though if we might want to, I don't know if we could do that after we all agree, just for simplicity, so we don't say Article 6 meaning Article 10, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, we don't want a new Article 8.
Just for now.
Article 8.
But when we're voting, we should say per draft 2. Do we have to specify it each time? Because, ultimately there'll be different numbers.
I don't know if it matters in this context.
No, because we'll figure it out.
As long as we have it finalized before we hand it off to the transitional board.
Perfect. Okay, then, one of the things I like with leaving out some of that process, especially in the article that we're talking about now, it's a long one, on Article 10, the C where it's preparation of ballots and counting of ballots, it would take we could change some of the stuff that Toby talked about where, they just said the combined results to the public without differentiating as the town of residence, blah, blah. We could change our process to be what we wanted versus what the board wants, that versus what these say here.
I'm going to check on that. I think there may be a statute in elections of unified districts that talk
Well,
about
if there's
common
statutes, then
votes.
when we write the policy, we're going to have to pay attention to those statutes anyway, right? Okay. So I'm okay with that. If we can't do it, we can't do it.
So what article are you talking about?
We're back on Article 10,
10C.
10C, only because things were missing. But you're right, we did say we wouldn't talk about stuff like that until after the stuff we'd already voted on, right? But
Well, we did not vote on 10C and
No.
D.
okay, we didn't vote on
that.
those.
No.
Okay, you're right. Thank
So
you.
I mean, I understand as far as process, and that makes sense. But what Toby brought up, that would be part of this process. So I guess we would have no influence on that if that's the case.
But she just said it's statute.
I'm going to need to check
Yeah.
on, sorry I missed that one.
Well, I guess it's like anything else. I mean, if it's something that we want, we put it in. If we can't do it, it gets taken out or it doesn't apply to us, I mean, if it goes against statute or if it doesn't hold up in a lawsuit or
So
whatever the state decides, it gets taken out.
So I guess the question right now is, do we want to put it back in, is the question. 10, so that we can vote on those sections, because we only voted on Article 10
Well, D and E you can't change.
and Article 10.
We can change. I don't remember how we did that for ones that we
I
couldn't
don't either.
change. Sorry. Did we check all of them?
Okay. That makes it
I think
If we check the minutes, what is it?
Change the ones we could, and then the ones that were
Process
stayed
was
the
it.
same, they didn't have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Put it on the whole article. So we haven't approved Article
It's not
10
like
yet.
Part of it.
Article 10A, B, so now we're on C.
Okay, it is statute that the ballot shall be commingled under the elections of union schools, school districts, and joint schools.
So that's contrary to what this is draft one.
Right.
Let's make it more confusing now. After draft one, when they specifically said that each town clerk should count the ballots.
Yeah.
That's
not-
because we don't have a single,
Because from what I understand, the way it's done now with MVU,
Right.
that the boxes come here, they're all dumped into one
Yes.
box,
Right.
and then they're counted. That's
That's
why
exactly how
there's
it
no-
happens.
There's no way that we can decide or we can
Break
determine
out,
right.
how one town voted.
and this is because it's the initial vote, and they're assuming we're not necessarily gonna have a clerk yet. And so they had sort of a different process for the initial, but statute really speaks about just what you described
Right.
at MBU.
Okay.
You have a special collection, you bring it to a single person, and a place, and the clerk and the JPs.
But that's,
You know.
that's what I would just imagine, is that you're gonna bring, each town's gonna bring, let's say, 2 JPs, and then they're gonna get together and
Yep.
do the job, so I don't know. And I'm sure for one time, it probably would work like that, but.
I think it would have to work if you haven't had your full organizational meeting yet. You're not an entity. You don't have those officers appointed.
Right, I think
For
that's
the
why they
new
had a
entity.
special process that may not even apply now that there's been a delay, with that 1 month delay. But in terms of what Toby was talking about, what folks were talking about, can we separate out the votes of, you know,
Each.
Swanton voted this much for the budget,
Yeah.
we don't do that, it would become one vote because it's a union district.
So I guess I'm confused as to where are we right now? What are we trying to do?
Article 10C, unless we want to start all the way.
No, I mean, it
Hmm.
it sounds like, because, I mean, it's true, it's underlined, the initial board members is
Yeah.
underlined, so, however, maybe that's why it's in here, because it differs from statute slightly, so.
statute, yeah.
Although if that's the case, it kind of makes sense to have it in here if that was the case, otherwise you wouldn't be able to distinguish what the process for, you know, normal operation versus the initial.
Which is why there's 10 and 11.
So we just have to make sure it's clear that it's going to be different for this
Yes.
one-time vote.
So if that's the case, I think we would want it in here.
And we should keep them in, so that it's clear to the voters
Yes.
what it will look like.
Well, because one thing
One
that I
bucket.
picked up was on the nominations portion, it talks about nominations signed by at least 30 voters in that town, whereas normally it's 30 voters in the entire district.
Right.
So I don't know if that's, you know, specifically,
That's part of the hybrid process, yes.
but I mean, our normal hybrid process for you is the district, not by
Right.
each town.
That was really at large.
Yeah, that's not, what we have is not large right now,
This is so complicated.
Yeah, it's-
So absolutely, and when I was reaching out to Sean Tui to ask, you know, can we get rid of the process and stuff, he said, I understand why you want to get rid of 8 and 9, but why do you want to get rid of C and D? It's just what the process is. And I said, well, I don't know, I'm just trying to make it
Clean.
Yeah.
Succinct.
right.
want too much
And he
reading.
said, you may want to. So
Okay.
I will copy, I'm gonna have, I have both documents open, so, or I will in a second.
So we can't maintain the way it is right now with this year
Not if we
because of the,
For
unified.
this
Because
one
of the,
vote, from what I understand,
this one vote.
this one vote, right.
It wouldn't meet the timelines or whatever.
Just for the, and it's not the transitional board, it's the first initial board.
It'll be on the meeting of the 20th, unless that changes.
Hmm?
No.
Wait, that's a transition.
That's the
That's the
transition board.
transitional board. And
The
they're not voted
initial
on.
board is the
This is the
initial
initial
elected board of the 9 people that you want to.
Will be voted on in a year from now.
I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
Keep me on my toes. All right, so I'm hearing from everyone, I'm copying and pasting from draft 1 into draft 2, C and D of Article 10.
So
Okay.
we need a vote on
E,
that.
right?
And E. And vote on it.
I don't know if I understand enough to really,
We're putting C and D back into draft 2. But I think we still need to vote on C and D.
okay.
Right, that's, okay.
I think the first thing was agreeing to put it back into draft 2.
Okay.
So we're having draft 2 on the table and draft 1 on the table.
So we can talk
So-
about possibly changing it
Yes,
if need be.
yes, now we
Okay.
can talk, you know.
There's really not much discussion on D, is there?
Yeah, okay, so,
Did
wait a
you
second.
vote to take them out?
What's that?
No.
Did you vote?
No, we
No,
didn't
we
vote,
did
we
not.
were thinking they were processed. So we're not having to vote to put them back in, we're just having to, we're pretending they're in and we gotta decide whether we
It's
wanna
just
vote. That's okay, it was good try. However, this is where D is kind of the same, isn't it?
Well, we haven't approved them yet, though.
But we haven't approved those
Just have to
sections.
vote on them to approve
The
them.
first year, we only approved, what?
By Article 14, we cannot change D or E.
Okay, good.
So those would be approved as outlined here. That's presented.
So now we have to just decide whether we're going to approve Article 10, C through D. C through E. So can I have a motion for that?
And really, C is the only one that gets changed, if they're not touching D and E, so I would suggest a motion, read that we would, I'm gonna make a motion to approve, 10C with the amendments, well, no, I guess we didn't amend.
We didn't amend it.
We didn't amend.
We didn't get to see.
Alright,
Yeah.
well, I underlined some things, but that's what was in draft one, so.
And that's what we're doing, we're putting draft 1 back.
So if we're not changing C, I guess D and E, can go right in there as well.
Right.
And during the discussion, we can
Right, so the
say if
motion,
there are gonna be any.
motion can be 10C, D, and E.
Okay, and before we get to the motion, tonight we're gonna ask for the public's input.
Yeah.
So do y'all have some input?
Well, maybe this is the time. I have to point out to you that Article 10 would be subject to an amendment by the authority unless you put provision in that you put in for proposed school closure, so.
Can we back up for a minute though? This is the initial board as opposed to Article 11, which is what you said earlier, that you think it would pertain more to 11.
Well, what's the difference between the initial board and the permanent?
The initial board is the one that gets voted on the first year, right? And then going forward is the regular stuff. So I don't know why they have 2 different articles for
Is
it.
that 9 members?
Yeah.
Yes, it's
Yes.
9 members, but it's with staggered terms, and then Article 11 speaks
Gotcha.
to,
Okay,
you
so
know.
Doesn't look like a
that's why
stagger.
you should, because it's so similar to your permanent board, that you need to put that protection in there, otherwise it could be amended down the road. There's set a precedent in Article 10 that could carry over to Article 11 if you don't do it.
Okay, so you would like us to put that amendment in there.
Yeah, that 3/4 vote by the initial. To amend this article requires 3/4 vote from the board and a majority of voters. That's the language that we adjusted it, so everybody comes on.
Yeah, that's what we've been saying all the way through.
Well, not all the way through, but for some of the ones that people feel strongly about.
And
Right.
it's up to you, but you might want to repeat that in Article 11. That protection in Article 11.
It's probably more important than 11.
Right.
I think it's more, equally important in 11 because that applies to the
That's-
board
right.
That's the real.
forever moving forward.
Don't overlook 10 because that could open the door.
Okay. So, anybody else? Any other comments, suggestions?
I guess I would say I'm not sure there's a need for E since it specifically references statutes. So it just seems maybe redundant if we're going to just shorten things up.
That can't be changed.
This is
That
one that
can't
can't
be
be changed though.
Okay.
A lot of it's redundant.
They say it can't be changed.
They say it can't be changed, but we're,
Well, we don't
Coming
need
up
to
with
worry
our
about
own,
changing all
correct?
this at all if it doesn't go through.
but what if it does?
Then it just gets tossed out.
No, if the merger goes through, it doesn't.
Oh, but that,
And that's
sorry.
just the statute of how you present the budget.
Yeah.
Right.
They say
So,
it's always good to put it in. If it doesn't apply or we can't do it, then it'll be
okay,
taken.
then
We won't have to
be
worry about
dismissive.
it.
Let's go back to what that was, Gavin. What was that you wanted to see? That on Article 10, you want us to look at E.
Because it directly references statute saying what we have to do, so we're going to be doing it anyway, whether it's written in the articles or not. So just if we're looking to be succinct in these, that'd be an option.
Actually, that came up in today's meeting.
It's hard to hear with the.
Sorry.
That issue came up in today's meeting in the development of the amendment to the proposal, which authorized a school board to borrow up to 87% from the unified budget in order to operate the school budget for the next certain year if your voters don't approve the budget.
And so, what does that have to do with this? Is that something?
Well, just mentioning that when you talk about Section E, about preparing budget is one of the duties of a school board. That actually came up today in the health subcommittee meeting where they addressed the ability of a school board to
To borrow
present a
money.
budget, a separate budget, by the way.
So, okay, so from hearing the public, what you all would like is for us to add in about 3/4 vote to change it, to amend that amendment. And also, did you want us to get rid of E? Is that your suggestion?
I'm saying we could if we wanted to shorten this up. It's not critical, we're gonna do it anyway, but,
It sounds like it's a process
yeah.
item, so
To me, I would suggest that it doesn't just sound like a process because it's the only one that really talks about that transitional board's responsibility. And it's the only responsibility that transitional board has, is that budget.
It's not the transitional board.
Mm-mm.
I'm,
It's the initial.
the
It's the
board.
initial board.
oh. Oh, well, then why wouldn't they bring it to the list of people?
Well, I would say, based on what
Mhm.
Julie had said, that is it Sean Julie had recommended that we keep them in?
I said, why take them out?
Why take them out? So I would err on the side of what the lawyer said.
Because if the only reason we're doing it is to make it shorter. Okay, so you all have the, just kind of a just straw poll here. Would people be inclined to add that 3/4 vote?
Yes.
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 Not
I would
amendment.
I would like to see that in 10.
Where in 10 would it?
On
Maybe
10?
give it an F?
Yeah, it would have to be on the separate subsection.
Of F, in order to change this? We need a 3/4 board vote?
And majority vote.
3/4.
And that vote would be a majority of the combined electorate. That's not relative to a specific town, like the school closure, where you would go to the specific town that school is located in. This would have to be 3/4 majority vote of the combined electorate, correct?
Would this be like a B1?
Yeah, it would.
Because it only pertains to the length of the term of initial board members? Is that, am I reading that? Or A, I guess,
Oh, A.
right? Because it doesn't apply to
It would be A,
all
wouldn't
of
it?
these.
Right.
A1, AI, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So we could add an AI.
Can we do that?
Sure. I'll
Okay.
take it now.
Would that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Well, wait, before
Well,
we do
to add that, though,
I'd
we've
like-
already voted
Yeah, we
on
already voted
A,
on
so
that.
we would have to amend
Yeah, let's
our.
not do that.
And plus, if that's
Motion.
the case, that means you're only saying it applies to A,
Mhm.
and not the entire Article 10.
But it does.
Yeah, F is,
yeah.
What?
Okay.
I guess, the cleanest, easiest way to do it.
You could,
I
we
would
could amend
prefer not to
another
vote on
motion
it.
and re-vote on it. We
Here's-
just need 3/4
Yeah, no,
of
that's
the board to.
Here's a question that I had, like, we always keep referring to Article 14 where we can't change amendments. We haven't even gotten to that. Like, theoretically, couldn't we also amend Article 14? I mean, or add it into Article 14 where we have to, have
We
a
can
3/4
just take it
majority.
out.
What's that?
You don't have to present Article 14 to the voters. So just as, like, we can't amend Article 8, but we don't have to present it to the voters, so we can take it out of this work. So Article 14 is the agencies imposing on us our process and what we can do and what we can't do and what they say is statute and what isn't. But we won't be presenting that was part of my question. We don't present Article 14 to the voters.
Still, I've got this mental block in my head where I don't understand how this Article 14 even applies to this process right here, what we're doing.
Right.
I still don't understand how everybody thinks that we're bound to that article, that we can and can't do something. Maybe we can't, maybe we can,
Well-
who knows? Let them tell us later, this is our wish list. That's how I see it. This is how it's been explained to us.
And for instance, we tabled Article 6. Theoretically, if you go Article, or actually, is that just part? Yeah, I mean, the big discussion was A, which is real property.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're gonna use that logic, then theoretically we have to pass Article 6A,
Before,
which is what a lot of it's being contested, or at least discussed upon.
I just wanted to say that I guess the premise here is that we're accepting our own council, schools council. the supervisory union pays for that council, and are we accepting their council or not? Because if we're not accepting their council, then you're right, have at it, change everything. If you are accepting their council, then there are certain things you won't change.
But I think
So
that-
I think that's what we have to decide.
Right, but the council didn't put Article 14 in here.
The what?
This was the state's.
No,
But
I'm
I
talking
thought
about
we
our
had-
council and
Yes.
what they've told us about the amendments.
I thought we had agreed on that at the
On the
first or
agreement.
second meeting, that we were kind of putting all of the what ifs aside and taking this in the spirit in which it was presented as this is what they are, amend along these guidelines. I think for me confusion comes in that a lot of this process stuff, I feel like there should have been default articles of agreement and then default process that tells us what we could do. And I think that including some of these as articles is not accurate.
Yeah.
But so that's how I'm kind of separating them in my brain. But I thought that we had agreed to go with, we're going to do what we can with these default ones that had been imposed on us.
The
Right,
original law in Section 10 of Act 49, as it amended Act 46, gave you 90 days to develop your own articles of agreement.
Right.
Right.
And that was 30 days or 90 days from the date of the statewide plan.
Right,
final.
that were voluntary mergers.
Involuntary mergers.
November
Voluntary.
30th.
Oh, okay, that one, okay.
So the November 30th, if you play that out, or even if you consider November 28th when they voted on it, out to February 28th, that was the 90-day deadline to create your own articles of agreement. The trouble is that the only body that was authorized to warn those for a vote was the transitional board.
Yes.
Because everybody agreed to that delay, that pushed our the organizational meeting until February 20th, is it?
Right.
There is no way for that process, because they didn't agree to push that deadline back.
Right.
So the default articles were only supposed to take effect if you couldn't agree on your own articles. Well, we don't have a chance to do that because they didn't extend that deadline. We don't have that opportunity. That means everyone gets the default articles along with Article 14, which limits your ability to change what you've been handed, which I think is another part of the lawsuit, because you can't just circumvent law, which is written in statute in Article 10 or Section 10 of Act 49, with a gentleman's agreement saying, well, we'll extend this deadline for you, no problem. Oh, by the way, now you can't develop your own articles of agreement. Oh, too bad, so sad. I don't think that that's fair, but as we're sitting here today, I don't think we have free reign. I think we're bound by Article 14 because and that's what our own attorney said, is that we have the 706N process available to us, but we don't have Act 49 Section 10 process available to us.
I think that's what I was trying to say when you said it.
If I could, that's not the impression I got by the discussion that this House has had today. They're under the impression that you, as a committee, have the authority to create your own articles of agreement within that 90-day window. And after that 90-day window is up, despite the fact that there has been a delay for 5 weeks, that 90-day window gives you the opportunity to create articles of agreement, and that was the subject of the discussion that occurred today.
Well,
Which put them into a state of shock, because that's why they want to move quickly to change it, to make sure that the state board had the authority to approve those articles. So they recognize today the fact that the default articles don't apply until the 90 days is up. So that discussion took place clearly today in the House for House Representatives.
But what body has the authority to warn a vote on your developed articles if you haven't had an organizational
It goes
meeting?
back to the discussion that occurred today, that goes back to the fact that the statute, Section 10, says the authority granted to the study committee to develop the articles, which in turn are voted on by electorate at the time that you create your permanent consolidated school board. So that and that came up today in the context of, well, what happens if you have the articles of agreement that have been approved and your electorate votes them down? So that scenario was discussed today at the House of Representatives. So it was clearly during that discussion that they understand that this committee has the authority to create the articles of agreement. From there, they go directly to the electorate.
It'd
Without
be
any
nice if they
approval from
share
the
that
state
with the
board.
committees trying to do the work.
That's the understanding that the House Ed is working. And the Senate Ed too, because my favorite person, Senator.
So
we stuck because of 14?
It sounds to me that we have a difference of opinion. We have some people who want to throw everything out and start with agreements that they think would work for if we were
Without 14.
without 14. And then there are other people who are saying we do have some confinement if we're going to make this work and have it. If we're going to merge, we'd at least like to have something that we're not caught up with turmoil on.
So-
That we could do these. What's that? But
I'm just going to say, so we could err on the side of what benefits us the best.
benefits who the best?
Us.
Us being us parents or our kids?
No, the school
us,
district.
Potentially new consolidated school board. So err on the
Yes.
side of what benefits the consolidated school board in our efforts to protect.
I'm not sure that, I think that has two sides too. Some people are going to think that what best is to have a clean, if we have to merge, that we'd have a clean agreements that the state isn't going to have push back on. Or we can have another issue if we're forced to merge and that they're going to say, look, you weren't allowed to touch this and now you're touching it and let's,
Or if you do something and you find out later that I wished I had done that. It's
there is that too.
So err on.
Both ways.
Err on the benefit of the consolidated board and let them tell you that it's wrong.
And I would say let's err on the side of what our legal counsel has told us.
Well, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if this is,
What's the legal counsel gonna do for us if he's wrong?
well, maybe we need to
What
take
is
a
he gonna
vote.
do if
We have
it's
nothing to
wrong? I mean,
lose if we do
I
what's
just wanna
best for the
say,
school.
If we're going to continue to go down this road of what do we need to follow, what can't we follow, where we have a meeting, we discuss it, we come to an agreement, we continue to move on, but then it seems we come back together and the same issue is rehashed. I just feel like we're not getting anywhere, and I don't want to
I think it's
waste
just been
people's
confusion
time.
and nothing is,
But
nothing's been discussed.
I feel like
We've
we discuss
adopted
it
a
every
lot of
time,
the
though.
default articles. I mean, they're in here. We've tweaked some, we've taken some
Verbatim.
word for word, verbatim. We're talking about adding a few things that benefit our school district.
But in the same token, you're getting told that you can't do that on some degree. Certain ones in Article 14 we can't do.
That's based on the application of the default articles. That's an incorrect interpretation.
I hate default articles.
Let's, how about, I almost think that perhaps what we should do is, and I'm going to throw it out there, if someone wants to make a motion, they can. If they don't, we'll just continue. I'm almost convinced that maybe we should make a motion. Do we follow, do we proceed from this point on with certain articles that can't be amendment that our attorney told us, or do we forget that and follow with other articles? Because otherwise, we're going to take a long
I
time.
think both. I think both.
Or both.
Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion? I mean, we have legal counsel available. They're probably not standing by the phone, but is it possible, in light of the conversation that was held and the understanding that's being discussed in the Senate Ed and the House Ed committees, can we get a clarification point from our counsel in light of that?
Absolutely. Here's my suggestion, because as you had this conversation last week or the week before,
Mhm.
sorry, I'm not sure
Every
which
week.
week it was.
Yeah,
Or every
yeah.
week. When you looked at each article, you kind of said, well, this is one that actually we think we're not going to change because, and then when you looked at it, there were really very few. Now, there's a difference between adding a sentence about, amending the article or tightening it up. There was one that we're not supposed to touch, but we added that subject to district policy, which is fine because that's the law anyway. So we just strengthened it. It's really just about wording. It didn't change the nature of the article. I wonder if, rather than you may be drawing lines here unnecessarily. I mean, if you go, because you're almost finished.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
it
maybe
may
just keep
just
going.
be,
Okay.
Absolutely.
may
Let's see what
narrow
happens.
in
That's
on
true.
a single issue, a a single piece and then you address that one. That's just my suggestion.
Let's try it.
I thought that's what we've been doing, and I thought it worked well.
Yeah, but we've
I
been
just don't want to get
stalled.
hung up
We've
on,
been stalled for a little bit.
you know,
tonight.
I just
Yeah.
don't, I feel like we're getting hung up on this whole, you know, we can't do this, can't do that, when we can.
I agree.
Exactly.
I'd like
You
to
know.
not get hung up on it.
I'd like to not get hung up as well.
So I think
can
we're all in
ask-
agreement. We're all agreeing.
I guess the only thing I'd like to say is that, you know, we've been using this as a guideline, default article, and we've been adapting and altering and whatever, and let's just rip out number 14, toss it out, and keep doing what we're doing.
Cool.
I think that,
Let's try it, see what happens.
So here's, I want to follow back to amendment to Article 10F, right?
Yes.
And I have a suggestion for a wording change.
That'd be great.
Because if in 10, the only part we'd be bringing to a voter to amend would be how many people are on the board, correct? And the model, not the election of the initial people or
Right.
that. So my suggestion was any amendment to Article 10A shall require a 3/4 vote by the elected members of the uniform, whatever board, and a unanimous vote by the electorate of the Missisquoi Valley School District.
Majority vote in the electric.
Well,
I meant majority because I
Unanimous.
Unanimous.
Julie, you want to make that hard.
100%, nobody changes anything. All right,
Even if they don't vote, then it doesn't count.
The,
Okay.
the only
Well, at least we know it's possible to get an anonymous vote from the electorate.
the only thing though is that with the change of the representation, we updated the table in B to add the extra members because originally it was 6 members.
yes, I did that.
so we've already done A and B.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're just adding
Yeah, so
that.
we've already voted on A and B.
Because B is only the initial, because it's the staggered.
Okay.
So you even, and if you do amend A and B, you have to make sure you stagger the initial terms. That was one of the things that was a direction, because you can't have the whole new
Yeah,
board
that-
being out,
That
or
even-
re-electing a new board every 3
That
years, right?
even makes sense.
So when you do it, so that's why
I would
suggest-
love to get a motion on the floor here.
I'll stop
And
talking.
before we do that, does anybody in the public, no, you're right on, but does anybody out there want to say anything before we get a motion on the board?
We just feel that you're making it a lot more complicated than it should, or it should be. You're jumping around and just saying,
Suggestions?
stick to one article, take care of that.
And keep the
Never mind
process
14
going.
until you get to it. Just
Okay.
saying.
Let's try it. So is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to, I think we can approve complete Article 10 with A, B, C.
No.
C,
We already
D,
did
E,
A.
and F.
Sorry.
We approved Article 10, A and B. We didn't
Right.
approve the complete article. That's what we had done
God,
in
we
the
have to
previous
do that.
ones. We went back and approved the complete article.
I
I'm
apologize.
suggesting the complete Article 10, along with an additional F, which Julie will read back to us one last time.
Yeah.
Any amendment to Article 10A shall require a 3/4 vote by the elected members of the Missisquoi Valley School District Board and a majority vote by the electorate of the Unified School District.
Should
Thank
that
you,
say
Joy.
initial board? Does that matter? Or are we doing it?
Right
I
on.
just said 10A, so that's what it refers to.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that's my motion.
Did you get
I'll
that?
second it.
Complete 10 with an F.
Okay. Seconded. Any discussion?
Does that make
All in
sense?
favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. No. Just one no. Okay. Moving right along. Shall we go back?
Yeah, can we start at the beginning?
Begin at the beginning, taking what Dave suggested, start at 4, where we were? That last, if we go in order?
Yeah, do that.
I thought you said we were gonna go forward and then go back.
Oh my God. Actually,
Sorry.
I thought that's how you said we were structure this meeting. We were going to go forward, finish them, and then go back and finish up the ones we didn't come to conclusion.
I thought we hadn't come to conclusion on 4.
Right.
Yeah, he's saying keep going.
Keep
We'd
going
stopped
through
at
11,
10
12.
B. We'll keep going till we
We
get
agree
to
on
the
that.
end, then go
What
back.
is it-
and
what is it we
once
need to
table.
finish?
Because we
What's
didn't
The
finish
next
at the
articles.
last meeting, we stopped at 10.
Oh, okay.
11,
Okay,
12.
sorry.
Yeah, so
Okay.
continue forward
Right.
before we
Is that
revisit.
what, okay, that's not what I
Yeah,
meant.
so
What I meant
11
was
is
the
next.
sequence. Okay, okay, let's do it. Okay, good. Okay, so we're on to 11. I think we already have a suggestion that we add the 3/4 to that. It would not be a problem, I won't
I
imagine.
guess it's
I'm sorry, guys. the only reason I
identical
voted no
to
last
F
time
on
is
the
because
last
that's
one.
A and B, a part of it that I'd already voted no.
Yeah, I should.
That's okay. I already voted no. Okay. Anyway, so, doesn't matter. So Article 11, is there anything else anyone wants on that, or change, or different?
other than the verbiage that we put in on
For F.
10F.
Yep. I got rid of the just,
Right.
I put any amendment to this article shall require. Because the last one was just that one section.
I like the way you worded that.
That's fine.
So you added that to 11, you're saying?
Yes.
Any public comments? So it looks like we're ready for a motion.
I'll make the motion that we approve Article 11 with the amendment as added, the verbiage about amendment.
One second.
Okay, John seconded. Any discussion?
Just one point, there's in red there, there's
Yeah.
a little thing, unless we amend, I'm taking that out
Yes.
because we're adding the section about amending.
I was just going to say that is not the same as what we're talking
Oh,
about.
good. Good catch.
So this will end after, under Article 10A?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
get rid of
Got it.
the verbiage in
Get
red.
rid of the italics. You got that, Pierre?
I think so.
Good. Yeah, there's a lot to keep track of. I know, I don't know how she did it.
I have a backup.
Oh, right. Okay, so no more discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Nay. Okay, so now we're ready to move on to 12. Commencement of operations. The Missisquoi Valley School District through its board. Anyway, okay, so you guys have all read it. Seems like a pretty easy one.
I'll make the motion that we accept Article 12 as written in draft 2.
I'll second.
Discussion? Anyone in the public?
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Well, what happens if you get the delay?
Then these
Remember,
articles don't.
The date, the date would not be correct if you did the delay.
We would have to make the amendments as required. Yeah.
okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Okay, passed unanimously. Great.
You're getting,
There we go.
You're going. You're going.
Okay. Uh-oh. 13. Dissolution of forming districts. Kind of goes back to 1, doesn't it?
That kind of goes along with 12 if you're taking commencing operations of one
Yeah.
entity, then
Yeah.
you're dissolving the operations of the forming.
Right. Unless we want to do 2 things at once, right?
We did talk about the fact that we would bring these to the voters when we have resolution.
Right.
So
Right.
these dates would be changed.
Right.
obviously, before they
Right. One of two things would have to happen. Either the dates would have to be changed or it would be, they would be moot anyway.
Right. Okay.
Makes sense. If it happens, it makes sense.
Okay. So, any, do we have a motion, or does, wait, committee members, do you want to discuss this further?
Can I get a second to read it?
Sure. You haven't memorized it?
Not yet.
I don't mind making the motion to bring it up for discussion, so make the motion to accept Article 13.
I'll second it.
I guess makes sense that if we're gonna have a new school district, we're gonna have to do away with the old one. That's basically what it says. And the SU as well. Last line there, the SU shall cease to exist on December 31st.
Oh,
Right there.
yeah, she ceases to exist on December
Yeah, we gotta do
31st.
double the work for 6 months.
For audits and
I think
any
it
other.
ties back to this,
As a forming
that everything has
district.
to be completed on.
We're just
Oh,
talking about-
because of fiscal
We're
years
talking
that we've
about
got
the
our
SU
fiscal years.
transferring its funds, debt,
Gotcha, so
property
this is all about fiscal
to the
year.
new school
Okay.
district, not
Okay,
any
gotcha.
one of the school districts
So,
transferring
good.
property to.
Any other discussion from the
Yes.
public?
Yeah, that's for the
Correct.
supervisory union. And then this is more for the district, each individual school district.
13 is what?
13 is described statutes. I think it's not necessary to have this as an article.
Right. That's a good point, too.
Since it's more process too.
Other than it just states the dates on which we will follow the
Yeah.
statute.
It's covered in statute.
But not everybody knows statute.
The voters,
The state
Don't know.
the voters wouldn't.
Well,
yeah.
Do they, Jay?
Pardon me?
Do they?
Depends which voters.
Only one.
I like,
Yeah.
I like statute.
Yeah, there's that one voter.
Because that one voter knows all the statutes.
Okay. So what did we decide?
I wonder if it falls right in with, what was it, 8 and 9 that we pulled out, is that just,
Well, that's that meeting.
yeah, it's just more process? I mean, if we form a new school district, I think it's almost, the voters aren't gonna vote no to dissolving the old one.
Well,
Can
could we put it in with Article 12 or not? Commencement and dissolution?
Well, I don't mind leaving it there, it's just more words.
The only thing it does is it does clarify fiscal
Yeah.
year versus July 1st.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the difference for me, is all about fiscal. They don't say fiscal, but that's what made it different for me.
The other thing that this differentiates is that it also takes and assigns the debt from the SU to the new supervisor district, not just the forming districts. It
Yeah.
includes the SU.
That's a
and that
good
trans-
point, good catch.
Yeah.
A really good catch. Are we ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Okay, so another one passed.
Doing great.
Yeah, we're doing great.
This is what I wanted.
Good thing. It's smart.
Did you bring him?
Thanks, John. You're right.
No,
No?
Okay.
no, but then,
So where are we now?
Now we would go back to the beginning. 4B.
That
4B, closure of school buildings.
4B, closure of school buildings. As I recall, one of the reasons we put on the table is because a couple of people wanted to make sure we put in there things like for public meetings, et cetera, right? Was that the big difference, that we still want it to make it a little harder? I did some research on some other, just to hear how some others had done that, like you all had said. And I do know that, I wrote it down somewhere, but there were a couple who said that they had to have 2 meetings or something like that, and one had to be in the town of the school closing. So
Isn't that what Eric?
we didn't even mention about being in the town of the school closing, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, you
I
gotta
thought
have
Right.
one
Yeah, we said 3 meetings in that.
Do we-
Three meetings in that town.
in that town, but what about the
Yeah.
other towns?
They don't get it.
Well,
Yeah,
it's-
I was gonna say, that's what I guess what.
Yeah, well, they can,
You
they
gotta
can
go to
still
that
go to the
town.
meeting, but I mean,
If you're
it's not
interested
that
in knowing it,
town.
you go to that town.
I think the point is the affected town should have, I mean, obviously, you
Is
know,
hosting
you
the
want
meeting.
the entire district to know. That's not, I don't think that was the intent of the.
No.
Was there any other points on that one that we wanted to add besides additional meetings? I just want to get it all out there.
I thought that was the only
That was the only
hangup that
thing.
was left.
And a couple of people thought maybe it was overkill, a couple other people thought it was really needed. Where are we standing now? Do we have any compromise here that anyone would suggest, or we?
I think at the end of the day, initially I was thinking it was overkill, but at the end of the day, I guess we can't inform people too much about something.
Well, if you stop and think about it, if you go to a meeting and this is going to happen, this may be the first time that you've heard that this is going to happen. You go there, there's a lot of discussion, there's a lot of debate, there's a lot of people leave with more questions than answers. They go home and they think about it, and it's like, okay, well, the next meeting, and they talk amongst the community and everything, and they get a better idea as to maybe what led up to this, get some history, and then come back to another meeting and have a lot of those questions answered. And there's, like, with our meetings, there's a lot of takeaways too, where maybe the board is taking something away from the community. Well, let's do a deeper dive, let's seek legal counsel, whatever it is, right? So, I mean, closing a
Third one
school.
for? So what's the third one for?
I know, I was thinking.
All I can think is, I hope I'm not working for the SU if I have to ever do that, because that's a lot of warning.
Well, it's 3 warnings, right? But I mean, I don't know. To me, it just makes sense. Look how much discussion we've had on Act 46, and how many meetings there've been, and still people are confused and don't understand. And
I don't think
we still
Franklin
have
has
a
the
lot of
least bit
questions.
of confusion from the
We've had a
votes
whole
I've
lot of
seen.
meetings, though.
I mean,
But
there's been a lot of
there's been
votes.
more than-
I
there's been
see,
more than 3
because
meetings.
There's been so many meetings.
There's been more than 3
You'd be
meetings.
surprised
Point
how-
taken.
You'd be surprised how many of the people in town that are not board members, and you'd be surprised how many don't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it, Chris.
I agree.
Okay.
Highgate's the same way. I really don't think.
So you think you need 4 or 3 enough?
I think 3 is sufficient. It can be as many as.
So one would be the law, right? One would be the law. Any vote, you know, whether
Even
it's a
6.
$3 million bond or two's in the middle, 3 is another thing.
I think 2 is.
Think 2 is enough?
I think
But as needed.
No.
As needed.
No.
That one never ends.
I'm sorry, Dennis. I've been so used to I'm so sorry. That's like the third time I've done that.
I'm thinking 2 is a good number.
2?
That's fine.
I
The
can
next motion is
Two's
take
good?
away your vote, Terry. So I'm not gonna make it yet, however.
I mean,
I'm all for that.
ultimately, is there any harm or costs like
there's cost.
incurred, like excessive cost incurred by having a third meeting?
Well, wait.
There's
Pierrette.
Pierrette, but no.
She's on the first floor. She can jump out.
Here's what I have drafted. I put a blank for the number. Discuss amongst yourselves. So we have that first section. Unless first approved by a 3/4 vote of the new Union District Board, I'll change that. Blank public informational meetings are held in the community affected and approved by a majority of the voters residing in the town in which the school is located. Does that sound right to people? But we don't have a number.
Say that middle section again.
Unless first approved by the 3/4 vote,
Yeah.
comma, blank public informational meetings are held in the community affected, and then, and also approved by the majority.
I know last time we talked about having the meetings at least 30 days before the vote, though. Is that still,
I think or
is that
I think
required
you're
by
gonna
law?
see that statute.
I think that's statute. It's required.
But of the last meeting or of the first
The
meeting?
last meeting.
Okay. Because, because theoretically you could put in 3 meetings all crunched together and have the vote 30 days after the first one. In which
You
case they
have
don't
to.
have like a couple days from the last one.
You have to have a 30-day between when the board warns it, approves a warning for a vote of the electorate,
Yeah.
right? So you have to have that 30-day.
The meetings can happen
But you
any
could
other
have
time.
informational meetings leading up to that vote, 3/4 vote of the board.
Can I make a suggestion?
But could you theoretically warn it and then have your 3 meetings and then...
You could have a meeting a week for 3 weeks.
But that's what I'm saying, though.
Good.
That would mean that last meeting could be literally a day before the vote.
Yep,
Yeah, we could.
that's what we do for bonds and for.
I'm just
You
saying
looked it
these
up?
questions wouldn't have been resolved by the time that vote needs to take place.
Well, I mean,
if there
if
is any
you're
turmoil.
involved in this, I mean, these are common sense type things that you're gonna, that you're gonna schedule these things accordingly.
I would like to make a suggestion. I'm looking down the road, and I can't imagine a school closing, but let's say that other communities are going to care. It's not gonna just be that one community. So if we're gonna have 3, I suggest we have
That's
one
good.
in a central place.
I agree. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
agree
think
with
it should
that
all
too.
be in this one town.
Yeah,
Seems
I
like
think you're
I
just
think all
counting
towns should
the
be able
impact
to.
on the district
Good
if
point.
a school closes.
Well, doesn't that tie
Well, it
into
isn't
then
like the
where
community-
the majority of voters, like right now it says, majority of the voters residing in the town where the school is located. Does that, I mean,
That implies only the affected town is voting.
Right.
So we wouldn't by law have to have informational meetings in Swanton if Highgate.
But I would think Swan would want it, because if Highgate were to
Right,
close.
it's gonna impact
It would
everybody.
impact
That'd be
everyone.
huge, and I think you'd get people in Swanton up in arms, you know? I mean, I think it would, and so wouldn't Highgate want that support if they wanted support?
Because if Highgate's closing, where are those students gonna go?
Exactly.
Swan, but it's gonna affect all.
There's nothing stopping from Swan or Highgate or Franklin from going to those meetings.
Well, that is
depending on where
right,
they are.
obviously.
You know, I mean, that's
I'm just
that's
saying,
open to the
it
public,
seems more
right?
inclusive if you have one for everyone,
Right.
and then to the areas affected. That's all I'm saying.
What if it needs to be warned in the district? However, the meeting has to at least be. I don't know if there's like a certain number of them have to be in that particular town, or you know what I'm saying. It could be that the entire district needs to be warned.
We're still working on the if, right?
Yes,
Hmm.
if.
Yeah, these are all ifs.
Would people be supportive of one centralized meeting followed by 2 informational meetings in the town affected?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
my concern is more about having a say in the outcome. Because if a school in Franklin or Highgate closes, they're going to come to us, or they're going to go to Franklin or Highgate, whichever is not closing. So that does have an impact on our teachers and our facilities. So I'm
That's a good point.
like, I understand, majority of voters in the town, because I can see that being the most immediate impact, but it does impact the rest of us, because the kids aren't going to disappear.
Well, and I think the 3/4 vote. Does the 3/4 vote on the board offer that level of input? And because it's not even going to get to the voters unless 3/4 of the board already agree on it.
Right, that's true.
So I think we're already going to have a handle on that impact before we ever present it to the voters.
I think that's probably judicious. I don't know what the word would be. Prudent.
Because that would affect budget and everything, the one budget for all the towns.
Right.
So my question is, do we want to be intentionally vague about where the meetings are held, and have 3 public informational meetings are held, right? Or do we want it to be something that's voted on that ties the hands of the community? So if we have the number, do we want to tie the hands of a future board around where those informational meetings are held or not? I think that is really what you're deciding there.
I think tying the hands of the board kind of leads us to.
All right.
That's a little
It's very nice. You want to go home.
misperceived.
I think one centralized meeting followed by 2 meetings in the town affected
I think that's
Yeah.
good.
isn't tying anybody's hands, and it's giving the citizens that have the most direct impact to them the most opportunity to ask questions.
All right, so I'm
Yeah,
sure.
that's
so
that's
nicely.
good.
Like she does. Look at my tie their hands.
Something we've done with the MVU budget, a little different topic, but we have had meetings in each community before. We did that a couple of years. It was a super turnout, if I remember right, but that would be, we did have 3 informational meetings in our budget. That was prior to our main informational meeting that we always had a week before. That was throughout the winter, I think.
Well, they could have more, right? This is just saying that they have to have a certain amount.
Yeah.
They might have to have
Yeah,
more.
you can have more. I don't
Yeah.
think there's any. I think your hands are tied. You can always have.
No more than.
All right.
At least
At
one
least.
central location,
Yes.
2.
Yeah.
town affected.
Maybe,
Okay,
just say
maybe
that.
just.
Yeah, you're right, at least.
I don't think I'm going to see.
So here's my thought. I've taken, instead of inserting in the middle of that sentence, a separate sentence that says, at least one district-wide informational meeting will be held, followed by 2 informational meetings in the towns affected. Does that
At least 30 days before.
Followed by 2.
In
Town.
town, not towns.
Well, earlier it has town and then with a little apostrophe S
Okay,
in
then it
case
might
more
be
than
two.
one.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah,
Case more
town
than
or
one.
towns.
Yeah, I
Depending.
see that now.
And I
Close them all. So tricky.
But at least 30 days prior to,
I think
Well,
that's,
there's a point
the.
she makes with the plural there, because if we were closing, let's say,
Multiple.
one building in Highgate, the white building, closing that one, and you needed to use space in Swanton, then it would affect both towns.
Right.
You'd be closing one school, but I suspect there'd be a plan as to where you would be taking up space.
Yeah.
But both towns
But
have to
does
vote on
We're leaving
it.
it.
that take
Oh, I
out?
don't
No, no. I'm gonna use town affected just for clarity.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And
if
if it's
there was
two,
more
it's
than
two.
one,
That's fine.
Okay, I like it.
I did my job there.
Okay. And she didn't do.
Whatever I
Okay,
say,
so do we
you
have a
know,
motion?
I think Jay had a comment.
Oh, sorry.
I guess one suggestion on that would be, instead of saying in the town affected, to be consistent with I in that section, the town in which the school is located. There's not that
that
vague.
sounds better.
Good
yes.
point, because all of them will be affected.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Just one thing to point out to Dennis here for a comment. The school closure has a section in there that if the school is used for something other than educational purposes, it's considered closure.
Yep, that's the
That's
next,
in there.
that's two
Yeah.
there, yep.
Okay, so can we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second? 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 Okay, any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay? Wow, okay. We be moving. Who did the second?
Eric.
I did.
Oh,
6 is all we have left.
6 is all we have left.
That's for last.
Okay.
And this was one of the ones that was pulled out because it's
Oh, that's what I,
the lawsuit.
that's why I put down here, why did we table it? How is this different than the legal requirements? Like, how is this different than when we did table stuff that doesn't do that?
I don't know, I just have a note that says the whole.
Yeah, we parked it,
Yep.
but we also, isn't this one of the ones that we weren't allowed to change?
Part
If we're going with that?
6A, we can't change.
Okay, so 6A we can't change.
I thought it was because it was a crux of the lawsuit, and that's why.
Yes.
Yeah.
Looking
Those
at
are
the
problems,
minutes, we
Bob.
just sort of said, this one's messy, let's come back to it. I mean, that's a characterization.
I think it was
but
8:30, there was like 9:30 at that point, quarter to
We
10.
moved
No,
to
it's
something
too
a little
much.
easier.
Too
to
much.
grasp.
It was too much, yeah.
But it is definitely along the lines of ones that you agreed to leave because, we'll have our answer around the lawsuit. But that's kind of where we sort of stopped the conversation and moved on.
So the ones that we can't change according to our attorney was 6A, but what about B and C? I think those would be not changeable too.
Not the amendment. Just 6A.
Just 6A.
Substance of the following can be amended.
We just zoomed right on by that.
Yeah.
Why can't it be more than $1?
6B and C, it's a majority of the new districts.
Why can't it be fair market value?
Change, how you want to process if you ever want to sell a
Excuse me.
building to, you offer it to the town first, and if they don't want it, then you go. I mean, the voters could say, we don't want to offer it to the town, and you can offer it to.
Right, and if it is offered to the town for $1, then they can't sell it for like 5 years. That's like a charitable gifting of something,
Turn around and leave
gifting
it
of
mid-dollar.
property. I think it's more than 5 years charitable, but, okay. So what are our concerns about this at this point when we're a little more rested? Committee members?
Isn't there, maybe I should ask Jay, he's a statute guy. Isn't there law stating that the conveyance of property cannot be sold without the approval of the electorate?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right here.
It's,
But if
He
you vote,
anticipated this.
So how is
if
that?
you vote in approval of the article, if the lawsuit doesn't prevail, which is one of the key components of that, is about around, does the state have the authority to order us to convey the property or not?
Exactly.
If the legal system comes back and says, yes, they do, and the merger is imposed and we're forced by court order to do so, then if we get a vote on the Articles of Agreement, which is when we would bring these to the voters, would be after we were forced to merge. By them voting to approve these articles, they would be voting to approve the transfer of the property.
So knowing we're not going to present these to voters until after we have a decision of some sort from the courts, are there changes we want to make? Since if we take off the, okay, if we do this, this is a crux of the lawsuit, if we know that this will be cleared up one way or another before it goes out, are we in a position, are people comfortable going through these and making any changes or?
I don't
or
really see any
edits?
big issues here.
I didn't.
I don't either. I mean, I think the lawsuit, either we prevail or we don't. If we
Right.
prevail, this is all moot. If we
Right.
don't prevail, then we've been ordered by the court
Exactly.
to move forward and convey our property, and this is where we get the electorate.
It's an article
And
that
if it
we
does-
need to put through.
And if it does happen, these are pretty, I mean, you wouldn't, what are you gonna charge more? I mean, how would you
So I
change?
guess I'm confused on how to vote on this. What's a yay, what's a nay? I mean,
A yes would be to include this, to approve this article and put it in. It's a standard part of Articles of Agreement in a merger situation. We don't want to merge, we've made that clear, and we're fighting that merger in court. But if the court comes back and imposes the merger on us, and we have a court order saying you shall merge, then it becomes a moot
no
point.
longer does that law or statute apply.
The court has come back and said, yeah, that was in statute, but
This trumps it.
yeah,
This
we're
trumps
ordering
it.
you to disregard that.
But isn't there a possibility that that won't happen until after these need to get approved?
We wouldn't bring these to the voters until we have a resolution on the
Right.
court case.
Right.
Could we have that in, like, in the motion with the understanding that these will not be presented until after we have a decision,
Well-
so that,
Hasn't that what we've been saying all along? We're not.
yeah, I just know that this is because part of it is a big portion of the lawsuit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Where, like Eric was saying, what's what, just to ease any sort of concern there.
Well, couldn't it be possible that the judge may rule that we have to move forward, however, this is a sticking point? And I don't know if there's a way around it to, still merge without resolution on this, but if then
Extrapolate this
we're
out.
forced to move forward and we've already approved it, then this would then be in the Articles of Agreement. In which case, that would then go against. You see what I'm saying? I mean, because they
Yeah,
don't necessarily have to rule definitively on
The
your
whole-
entire
right,
lawsuit.
right.
Right.
They could, say, okay, I agree with this part, I don't agree with this part. So I mean, there's potential that he says you guys have to merge. However, I'm still deciding on this portion. In which case,
Right.
Well,
then
I
if we
like
present this forward, then you're kind of putting yourself in that same situation where the voters are then going to have to vote. If they say yes, then the judge is like, well, you guys already voted, so I guess
Right.
my decision's moot because you guys said okay.
Why can't we do it the way Megan suggested then, with that wording?
What was that?
That we vote on the article, but, stating up front that with the understanding that it would,
Contingent.
if contingent upon a final decision on A, B, C, before we bring it to voters.
so that if I'm understanding you, if for some reason the lawsuit settles out where this transfer of property piece is not definitively, that they do say, well, you may need a different process to transfer or not transfer property. The new board could actually change this
Yeah.
before it goes to the voters. So your vote tonight could be that we'll stick with this contingent upon this
Right.
language being upheld by the
Right.
court. If not, then,
Exactly.
you know, the new transition board
Subject
could-
to change.
would be able to you know, the recommendation of this committee,
Would be
the
to-
the new board would change that, or take it up again, at
Right.
least. I mean, we're not deciding for them, but
Right.
them take it up.
I was gonna say, I mean, this committee has no control of what the transition board does.
Right.
As far as, you know, presenting these articles, it's our collective recommendation to the transition board.
Well, no.
No.
No, it's not. The transition board brings
yeah,
what
they'll
we,
bring, yes.
Yeah.
this is
This is it.
set in stone
No, I
right
know.
here, right?
Yeah.
The
Well,
transition board brings it to the voters.
Transition board only does
They have to
the
approve
budget.
them. They have to approve them.
Do they?
They have to approve them. They could,
They
the
could change
transition
them.
board could throw all of this out the window if they want.
No, no, no.
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 No?
This is
No.
where there are legal opinions.
Okay.
Everybody has a different.
Regardless,
So
remember,
I
I'm
think
the
it's really
transition
safe
board.
to say there's a case to be made for
Yeah.
them being set in stone, a case for them
Okay.
being changed. But if this group makes an you know, the transition board is gonna be made up of
This group.
most of these,
And
many
these
of
rules.
these people.
Right.
So
Right.
you're the
Yes.
ones who are gonna respect your own decisions here. So
Thank you.
I think this is, I trust you guys more than I trust the players on this particular issue. So I think if you folks make a decision on what you want on Article 6, and you make it clear in your motion that it's contingent upon the outcome of the lawsuit, that it could be revisited if
Right.
there is
Yes.
a change.
Subject to
Then
change.
Let's
yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable
Somebody
with that.
better than I wording that.
I have a question I'd like to ask it to Bob.
Okay, Dan.
Is there ever going to be, is there any scenario where these articles would go to the voters without number 6, or without the lawsuit being settled?
Yeah, that was
Are these ever going to go to the voter not complete? I mean, if we bring them to the voters, that means that something's happened to the lawsuit. In my mind.
That was my intention when I had that conversation last time, is that we wouldn't, because by voting on these
Any of
prior
them.
to a resolution, it could be weakening our position.
Any of
in the
them.
That's
lawsuit.
what we agreed to.
So they won't go until we're ready. That's,
I
then
think
we
we
get
have
the-
that in
We
there.
agreed to honor
Yeah.
that.
so I'm just thinking that 6 might just well go in there with all the others.
Right.
And the whole document, it's either gonna be all or nothing.
Right.
When it goes to the voters,
But like I said, if the judge has not settled on this particular aspect,
Yeah.
but says you still need to move forward with the
While
merger,
we continue
Yeah.
to figure out
then you're
this.
gonna have to present something to the voters. Yeah, so there, at
Well,
least,
that's where her contingency.
right, that's
I
where
like
the
the
contingency.
contingency.
would work.
Just because this
It
one
gives
of
us the
all of them is
flexibility to at least get the framework in place, and then if we have to adjust it moving forward based on
You'll be on that transition.
So we
dynamic.
just- God willing.
God willing.
So we're gonna
I was
add,
so excited.
so
I
we're
could
gonna add a
tell.
D to Article 6 is our bottom line.
Okay.
Would it be a D or would it just be?
Well,
I think it would be a
it'd
D.
be a D. 'cause
Well,
then it would
we
be-
wouldn't want them to
then
vote on
it
it,
would
but
be
we
in there.
put it in
Right.
the motion.
Put it in the motion, but it's
right.
not part of the article.
Oh, good idea. Okay, so who's going to make this
I'll make the
tricky?
motion.
Is there, do we want public comment on this?
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Do
we
we?
have to make a motion? Does it matter?
No, I told them they could do it before the
Oh,
motion.
okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. It looks like Jay wants to say something.
First of all, court documents are calling into question the legality of forcing the school district to sell its assets for a dollar.
Yes, and we've talked about that. That's why it's contingent.
I haven't read any court documents where it discussed the ability of the electorate to exercise the rights to vote on conveyance of property. We had that discussion today again at the State House. And the other side of this point is that what we're talking about is existing statute 24 BSA 1061 that gives the authority to the electorate to weigh in on whether they want to sell their assets. And the only way that that statute can be changed is either by action of the legislature to either amend or repeal it. And there's no precedent set that causes a judge to be able to override state statute without following the process. So what we're talking about in this section is basically a boilerplate default article language, because you'll find that in default article language. What we're talking about in this particular instance is following the statutes that are relevant to this particular action being taken by the board. So you're talking about, Bob, and jeopardizing the suit, but we're talking about two different things here. We're talking about the legality of selling our assets for $1 compared to the ability of the electorate to weigh in as provided by statute on the sale of the property. Not talking about $1 or anything like that.
But did you
wouldn't-
hear this?
Wouldn't the vote on the articles be their opportunity to weigh in? If they don't want to sell their property, then they would not approve the articles, and then,
But if you want to follow that path, then you'd be better off not putting that article in the ball.
but you have to do something with the property. You have to decide. You have to make a decision.
It's just that, I mean, the statutes are pretty clear in this particular case, more so than usual, where, you know, it says that those electorate have the authority to weigh in on whether they want to sell the assets that technically belong to them legally.
Which is the same process as forming a union school. We sold assets or whatever we did back when
Either
we formed
sell, or
MBU.
in the case of MBU, we built it from scratch.
Right. So in the 706 unification process, you vote to dissolve and to transfer those districts. So by voting on those articles and approving that, you are voting to sell your property. Isn't that part and parcel of the unification process?
And I don't think so. Because if it weren't specifically addressed in statute, then that would be probably true. But because it's specifically addressed in statute, then there's an intent by statute, by action of the legislature to give this opportunity to voters. So,
And that comes back to my initial argument that if you have a judge that comes back and you get a court order that tells you have to merge, then where is your argument? And
well, the
because
judge-
we've argued in court that you say you guys are going against statute. We don't believe you have the authority to make us do this. We're taking you to court. If the judge says, well, I hear your argument, but I don't agree with it, and I say they have the authority to make you do that. That's not what I want to hear from the court. But if that happens, then what leg do you have to stand on and say, but it's covered in statute and you can't? Because aren't the courts the ones that interpret the statutes and decide who has the authority to do what?
Well, it's the judge's responsibility to rule, to make a decision based on statutes. So he has to make a decision.
That's what I'm saying. So if the judge makes a ruling and says that you have to merge and you have to sell your property to the unified district, what leg do you have to stand? You don't have statute to stand on anymore. So what leg do you have to stand on, and why does it hurt to include this in your articles that you're going to put forward if you're imposed to merge? That's my question.
Well, we're speculating on what a judge may do
Yeah,
and not do. But I can't believe that the judge, there's been no precedent set by Superior Court or any other judge of that nature, has made a decision that would overturn the existing state statute.
I would hope they wouldn't. I mean, that's their job.
Not only that, but there is an incumbence upon court officers to follow the law. So it'd be very difficult for him to make a decision that would be counter to this statute. I mean,
I understand that.
either way, I just feel that it's not a good idea to put the boilerplate default article language in here as opposed to something like this.
Something like what?
Okay. Okay, so any other public comments? Because this is going to all come down to vote. Any other public comments?
I'd like to see what Jay has.
Okay.
So we talked a bit about the article that was suggested earlier. And this is the one that we talked about.
Transfer forward district.
It's a lot simpler than what.
Thank you.
Now, you had a concern about.
So that's
I think that's the it's a lot simpler. You know what I'm saying? Instead of having all this, because that's a default article boilerplate language.
This covers if you decide to sell your property. what happens, and it gives you the town in which the school is located first buying rights of it back.
That's described in the statute, that you can follow that. If you're forced into a merger, all that will follow. That's not only in your default articles, that's in statute too. I can't remember if it's in 46 or if it's in 49, but I know it's in the other.
Right?
We're gonna let you decipher Bob and Kelly.
So let me just pose a question then. If the electorate gets the opportunity to weigh in on the sale of the property in an imposed merger where they have no choice about merging, but they have a choice about the transfer of property, and they vote against transferring the property, what benefit does that afford the voters? What town, to the town?
Well, it circumvents section 6 of the default articles, selling property for $1. And what it does is it sets up a scenario by which you would lease the property to the new consolidated district for $1. So, as in the past, the question is, would the new district decide not to lease it? Well, there's a lot of things that have happened since that time. And if they decide not, one of which, if they decide not to lease the property, then they would have to move the students to another location, which would violate your closure policy, your closure article, which you just approved. Number one. Number two, there is discussion about small schools becoming eligible for small school support grants, and Franklin will qualify for a small school support grant. So if you were to not lease that, then the combined school district could lose as much as $100,000 in small school support grant income. So there's other things that have happened since the last time that we talked about this. So it's unlikely that it would be in the best interest both financially and otherwise for the consolidated school district to not lease the building for $1.
So we've already covered in a separate article that if they don't use the school in the grade configuration that it currently exists, it's considered closure. And they have the protections built in under that clause. If, despite those protections, the school still closes, the town gets first right of purchase back. So I'm just trying to figure out where it behooves the town to retain ownership and responsibility rather than the unified district. For instance, if Franklin were to retain ownership and not vote to transfer their ownership to the unified school district, education is being delivered, an issue arises that requires some kind of major repair or replacement, roof, whatever. Something happens.
Parking lot.
If Franklin owns that, Franklin is responsible on their own for repairing it, right?
So
If the unified district owns it, then that cost is borne by everybody within the unified district.
I'd like to draw that question up, because if that were the case, like any other school district, there would be a budget associated with the use of that building. And so if there was a roof failure or something of that nature, that would be incorporated in your budget. And it would then become incumbent upon the consolidated school district to determine whether or not it's financially feasible for them to make the repairs within that budget for the needs of that school. So you would have sort of an individual budget. And that brings me back, I don't want to muddy the waters here, but that brings me back to the last question I had, and I'm done after this, about the setting of tax rates based on the amount of money being dispersed out of that consolidated budget. So that kind of plays into this too. So if you have a roof failure, then your tax rate will be calculated by the amount of money that's actually dispersed to your school district. So there's a mechanism here where those sorts of issues can be addressed by the taxpayers of the individual county, which will be happens whether you lease the building or sell the building. So
I'm just trying to wrap my brain around a benefit to retaining the building as opposed to having it protected, and then if it still, after, despite the protections you built in, the school closes by a majority vote of the voters in town, they get that building back for $1. They get it back for exactly what they
Well, if they put this language in, it wouldn't be a question of whether they get back the dollar or not, they own it.
That's what I'm trying to wrap my,
Yeah.
what is
Yeah,
the,
I don't
Yeah,
see the
My
benefit.
question is,
Yeah, I'm
how
with
would
you.
the town own it without a vote of the community to transfer it from the school district? And again, this is what the lawyers in the lawsuit is gonna figure out. But the difference between, you know, Title 16 around the electorate approving the transfer or sale of property that the school board decided to sell,
right.
which is different. Nobody's deciding to sell anything here. It's really going to get down to whether this transfer through the imposition of the change of
Right.
district is a sale or not. And better people than I are going to figure that one out. But the real question becomes, if you didn't, who would own the property? Because you wouldn't have transferred it to the town or
Yeah.
a private entity. It would just sort of exist with no one owning it, potentially. And again, I don't know the answer to it, but you know, I can't come up with an answer for it. But I think your question is what to do given the circumstance we're in.
The ones I looked at kind of had this same verbiage, you know, where they had, like when I told you how they had the 2/3 vote or whatever, they did have this whole thing in it too, the one I was looking at too, that I looked at.
Yeah, I was trying to
What if we did this? I mean, let's look at something. Can we put something together in language that would sort of make reference to 24 VSA 1061? Not in real specific terms, and I would scale back the language wherever possible with regards to the boilerplate act, alt articles. Try to make it a little bit more generic and make a reference to the concerns that you have around 24 to 1061. That would seem to be like a compromise that might help work and resolve this, because I think this, I don't want to have this become a problem that is insurmountable and prevent this committee from ultimately approving these articles of agreement. So I don't want you guys to get into an argument over this, because it's more important to get this work done. So I'm just thinking of a compromise that maybe you could come up with an idea where you make reference to 24 1061.
But they're,
Maybe not in specific terms, but more a little bit vaguer, and then try to scale back on the language that's in all articles.
I'm just torn trying to see the harm in this article. That's where I'm at right now. I just,
I mean, here's a fundamental double-edged sword. I mean, you got a statute that gives the authority to the electorate to weigh in on whether they want to sell their assets.
and we have a lawsuit that is asserting our belief in that statute, is what I'm saying. So if the lawsuit says that statute does not apply to you, too bad, have a nice day, good luck with your merge, then you're arguing statute, but statute then has already been decided in a court of law that it doesn't apply. So I don't see the harm in having this in articles that are going to then be presented to the voters after that decision is made. If they decide we have to merge, they're saying your argument is moot. It doesn't hold water. You have to merge.
And we did that contingency.
I go back to my original statement. It's unlikely. I've never heard of a Supreme Court judge overruling.
And I hope that's the case. I certainly do.
I've never heard of it.
But I'm just saying, the only way these articles will go to a voter is if they come back and say that you have to do this. So what is the harm then in having this and having the protections built into the closures in the school article?
is there a
So
committee
you're
here
protecting your
that's
school,
supposed to
you're
come in and
doing the
see
best you can to ensure that it's going to continue
we're
being used
way
to deliver
off base.
education.
So,
Sorry.
So keep, if you want to, if you feel that strongly about keeping that language in there, protect that.
You get it, right?
eventuality,
Okay. I'm sorry, we got it.
Yes.
I would recommend you make some kind of a statement to 1061.
Okay, well, we've got time now that we've heard from people. Let's have a motion on the floor. Who wants to make an motion?
Back to that 5-minute deal, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. As facilitator, I will be mindful. Okay, so do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion that we, oh God, now I have to remember.
Yeah.
That we accept Article 6
Yep.
with the addition that,
Are we on Article 6?
yes,
Yes.
Transfer property, yes.
That the
Sorry,
jury-
sorry,
Contingency is the
sorry,
word
sorry,
you're
sorry.
using.
right, that we accept Article 6 contingent upon the court's
Yes.
ruling on on the question of transfer of property, transfer or sale of property.
Subject to change based on. Right.
Could you just put in there pursuant to 24/16, that'll work.
Sorry, I don't know what protocol is here, but we're in a motion, so you have to say your motion.
I'm trying.
I don't know if you can read my writing.
Good job,
I don't know if
Megan.
that'll help you.
A motion to approve Article 6 contingent upon the resolution of the
It says litigation.
litigation, which could result in this article being reviewed by the transitional board of the new district.
I'll second the motion.
Can we,
We just got a second to the motion.
We can
so.
discuss.
So now
there's-
Okay, now we can
discussion.
discuss. Who's the second?
John.
Gotta learn to write
You're up.
stuff down
Okay.
as a
Okay. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, so I like what's been added. But in reference to what's been discussed, making reference to the statute, I think is important to put that in here.
Okay.
I think it should be included,
So you're asking them to amend if they want to?
yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
What
Is that
does
how it
that?
works?
what is
What does that add?
what is the statute?
That statute is the municipal law statute. There's also statute under Title 16, which is specific to school boards, so there's,
But if those statutes exist, why do we have to quote them?
It's just making reference to the statute.
Do you want to reference the statute?
Wait, guys,
You don't
I'm just
have to.
done.
I don't see any harm in
Yeah, I don't.
referencing the statute.
I don't either. I think that's fine. No, I'm happy to amend it. Trying to think of what.
Yeah, because I think you
The
got to be
wording.
specific as to what,
Well,
because otherwise
there's
it's
a
just kicking
question
the
as to
can.
which statutes apply,
correct.
whether it's Title 16 or Title 24. Could you just word it to say pursuant to applicable statutes?
Yeah. Does
Yeah.
that cover it?
I guess my feeling is, I don't think we have enough information to settle on this, which is why I like it. Not trying to kick it down the road, but it gives the transition board
Yeah.
an opportunity to make changes as they see fit,
Keep it open.
to make sure that it's relevant
As
at
time
that
goes
time.
by.
Yeah, I like that.
So that's my only thought. Why I'd rather not make it overly complicated, because then
Okay.
later on they might be like,
That is a good point.
that's my point.
So the way it was first worded.
I agree. Just keep it the way it's worded.
Yeah.
I just going back to what we discussed earlier, like, if we're, let's make sure that we put our best foot forward and that we cover all of our bases, and let's not be in a situation later where we're sitting back, it's like, oh, maybe we should have put that in there, or you know what, we could have made reference to something where the transitional board could have looked into it and made a better decision, or
Yeah, you don't want to be backed into a corner.
you don't want to be backed in the corner, but there's something there saying, okay, what does this really mean? Can I make reference to it?
Right.
And that's all it is just is a number. It's not all the verbiage. It's not,
I do think having the language that it can be revisited allows
Yeah.
for that.
Yep.
on
the same people.
what purpose, or revisited for what?
Well-
I mean,
Revisiting the language of Article 6.
I think the board will know, the transitional board will know what we're talking about. Yeah.
maybe.
Well,
I'll be
yeah,
on the
Some of them are
transitional
here.
board.
Maybe.
Yeah, the same people.
I was gonna
Some
say,
of
it's
them are
all
the
the
I'll be on
same
the
people.
transitional
You know-
board, I'll
Yeah.
know.
Oh, there you go.
You know what? Let's, what is we're asking Megan if she cares to change her way you
Perfect.
put it. John is saying he doesn't wish to change
And
the
I
second you
I
gave.
agree with John after
Okay, so,
hearing more.
so
Yeah,
why don't
I
we
think
vote on
makes
this and then we
sense.
can, we get two more discussions, but we can vote on this and then we can do another vote, you guys. So it's not, you know,
Right.
what's that?
One quick thing before the vote, just to John's earlier point about there could be a partial ruling. Megan's first motion had it contingent upon the very specific part of the litigation on the transfer of property.
Right.
The one I think she made at the end was generally about the outcome of the litigation. I was wondering if you want to go back to the more specific version.
That's an excellent point. Did you want to add anything else?
I just want to, resolution of the litigation as it pertains to the transfer of real and personal property. Is that what you wanted?
That, yes,
Contingent
yeah,
upon 6.
contingent upon the decision on the transfer of property to the New England district.
Real and personal, right? That's a big one.
Thank you, Jeff.
So do we have it?
You're right.
Pierrette, did you get that?
It sounds like she has it. I don't know. I've got like a lot of scribbling here. Okay.
Okay. And you're seconding it still?
Yes.
John's seconding it. Okay, I think we've had enough discussion, yes? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no.
Nay.
One no. Okay. Phew. I don't know about you all, but I am exhausted.
Just one
We
more.
went through them all.
Okay, we're almost through. Okay, we got it. Okay, yes.
I just wanted to go back to Article 5 for 1 second. Make the comment that the request that you guys give some consideration about the recommendation to set the tax rate based on the disbursement of funds.
Wait a second, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that. What was that?
I think we could do that.
Section 5 is my one, Article 5.
Article 5.
Because there's no way to figure that out.
Recall we had a discussion about linking the individual tax rates for towns based on the disbursement of funds from this consolidated.
Right, and our attorney told us no.
Just, well,
Till we voted.
And we did vote already, so.
I'm just offering, but I understand. But the only reason I mention that is just to take, for example, Franklin, what's in their budget, an amount of $400,000 for the playground.
Okay, I'm really sorry, but we're gonna have people leaving, so I think we need to make
Okay.
a vote on something, or we still have a quorum? Okay.
So
we will-
what's left?
I don't think there's anything left, but what is this, is this something important that we need to know about the school playground that we haven't already discussed?
No, I I mean, you said earlier that we would go back to other articles that we wouldn't want to revisit.
I did say when we had time at the end.
So that's why I bring this up, is because I think that it's a lot more accurate to base your local tax rate based on the amount of money that's being dispersed to each school out of the consolidated budget, so that one school doesn't end up subsidizing another. I'll leave it at that.
Does anyone here want to make a motion to change anything based on that?
I think what we voted on was based on direct advice from council. We'd be hard pressed to go against our council to
Personally, it's not just by council for me. I would hope that it's equal spending.
I checked with the State Department of Taxes, and it hasn't gone.
Well, we're hoping there's going to be equal spending, aren't we?
And might not be.
I wouldn't anticipate there would be.
Well, if someone wants to make a motion, now's the time.
I'll make a motion to open it up for further discussion.
Anyone want to second that?
I'll second.
Okay. So, further discussion on which article are we talking?
Article 5.
Article 5. Can we limit the amount of time we spend on it? Just based on the time that it is right now, 8:30, and that we still need to vote overall? I mean, we have to vote overall for these, right?
Let's keep it past this first.
Okay. I'm just talking in terms of what time we have left in this meeting. That we have one more vote we have to take for sure, which is the totality of the package, right? Okay, and now we're talking about some other things. Okay, so we've just had a motion to reopen discussion on Article 5. Okay, committee members, do you have anything you want to persuade or discuss?
I would just like to reiterate the fact that we met with two council, and both said that it was not possible to do because of the nature of the unified budget.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Any other, but I think
Gotta
we've got
remember that
your,
part.
Jay, from what you wanted. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, let's take a vote. All in favor? What are we voting on?
Nothing.
Nothing.
To open up.
Reopen it to what? So
Article
we're
5.
opening it up with discussion. What else we want? How else are we opening it? What are you saying, table it
The
or?
motion was to open it up for more discussion.
Oh, and
There
we
is
haven't
no
done
more
that yet.
discussion.
We were
more
just
discussion.
discussing the motion.
Oh, okay, I'm
So
sorry.
now the motion
I'm
made
so
and
sorry.
seconded, and we can vote on it.
So all in favor?
Whether we want to open up.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no?
Nay.
Okay, so then we're not gonna bring it again. Okay. Sorry. Okay, thank you for that. So, are we at the point where we wanna have a vote on the whole package?
I would like to see a finalized clean copy.
That's exactly what I was
Before
gonna say.
vote
I
on
would
it.
much, and then if there's minor tweaks
Yes,
after
thank
that,
you.
I don't mind voting on, minor tweaks, but I think there's enough changes here that I'd like to see a final
Yeah.
version.
Yeah, I agree.
How do we get that done? Do we meet again, or what happens?
Well, if you wanna
Yeah, well,
approve it, you're
We're
gonna
gonna have
wanna
to,
meet.
yeah.
Okay, great. So I will not be here unless we meet tomorrow. So,
That's fine, tomorrow's fine.
We don't have a meeting tomorrow, right?
That's right, I guess.
I forget
Actually,
the-
that's a good point. I was kind of expecting to have a meeting anyway.
Right.
And if we could have the articles and get this done, I'd like to.
24 hours,
It's
you can
less
have
than-
24.
Oh,
We
24.
haven't had
no.
it yet. We haven't
Too
done it.
late.
It right now
for 8:30 tomorrow night.
Nah, no.
It doesn't constitute an emergency.
Yeah.
Is it?
Oh, that's not warrant.
Somebody
Oh,
else
come
would
on,
do?
you're right.
Oh, the warning.
Small buttons.
Wow.
Yeah, you have to
Who
vote.
did you say was taking over? I think it was you, Dennis.
Somebody mentioned my name.
Yeah, if I wasn't here, yeah.
I like this.
Julie, do you have the
You do, that's
printouts?
right, okay.
I have the new one.
We want to see a
Better.
clean copy with all the changes we made before we approve the
Okay,
overall.
so should we set a date for your next meeting to have that vote?
What do we have for,
Thank you. You got one.
Oh, I did get one, thank you.
I would like one, yes.
So the next meeting, what works for people? A couple of days from now, or?
Tuesdays
can
are
we
so awesome.
piggyback with,
Next
maybe
Tuesday?
some other,
Yeah, to be a quick meeting.
I would do it as soon as you possibly.
I'm cool with whatever you guys want.
Next Tuesday, I think.
Because I'm not here.
Sheldon meets next Tuesday.
When are we meeting?
Franklin meets on Wednesday. Highgate meets on Thursday.
When it meet March 7th.
Oh, all right.
March 7th.
March
That's
7th.
ways out.
March
No, no, no,
7th.
that's Swanton, it's Swanton. It's a
We
little
do-
code
that's
for
the
Swanton
Swanton
School Board.
Oh.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, look, I've got it in there, good.
okay.
I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, throw out some dates, people.
Well,
I
do you wanna
cannot
do it
do
later
Monday.
this week, because we should do Thursday.
Do 7th.
Thursday?
Thursday.
Thursday work for you, Dennis?
Does it work for you, Pira?
Thursday, we're good?
Sure.
Thursday works for everybody?
I love it.
I'll make
I don't have my calendar in front of
Can
me,
I
but.
send my vote by proxy?
You can call us on the phone.
You've been on the edge, Terry, I don't know.
I might have to do the same.
We may lose
You're
it.
not here.
You send it, we may lose it.
If you call in, you can vote.
If you call in, you can go.
Everyone say
Yeah,
aye.
like, where
Everyone
you
say
gonna
nay.
be? I don't know, I might
Yeah.
get caught. Who knows? But I would say this, that given the changes we make, I would most likely say, yes, I would agree to it. I do want to go on record, though, since this is my last meeting here, to mention that I owe it to some of the Swanton representatives to say that I'm glad we were able to compromise. We didn't make a compromise about this one, and I just want to be on record that I think some people feel pretty strongly that the way we're doing the members, the way we're doing the representation, it is one per town, but if you break it out, it's one rep for every 714 people in Swanton, one rep for every 393 people in Highgate, and one rep for every 156 people in Franklin. So I do think, I'm not saying it's the right way or not, I'm just saying there is some, I think it deserves to be recognized, just like some people have concerns about selling the school, giving up the school, there are some people who have concerns about that. So, however, overall, I think it's great that we're all working together. I'm sure that even people with those concerns support all of us working together for the kids. So, thank you, everybody. Anybody else want to say anything? I would like to thank Julie for getting us through all this. I mean, seriously, you've had a lot of grace under pressure.
And she read from her notes.
Yes, thank you. And the public that keeps coming and being so interested in showing up and helping with this, so thank you. And the members.
I will get those out to you
Thursday.
tomorrow.
Oh, what time? Thursday at 6:30, same
30
place?
here.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
So you can just
Oh, we need a
email, when you
motion?
send the email out, send a number that we can call into. Is there any way for more than one person to call in? Like call in on somebody else's phone, or we
Yeah.
can have a couple phones set
We'll all
up.
bring our
I'll
cell
give you my
phones
cell
and we'll
phone.
call
You
people.
can call me.
Thank you.
We'll figure it out. Maybe
Okay.
you could slide with,
It's
uh,
February
Congratulations.
8th.
Thank you, Jay.
Seven.
Ed said it's going to be furious with you.
Okay, wait a second, I'm sorry, we're gonna adjourn first. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Chris, motion.
Second and whatever.
Okay, Steve was right in there with that
Okay.
second.